Nice to be in orbit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gnomon stream. In fact, we were just watching the Gnomon student reel from 2020. It's a representation of pretty much everything that artists are learning at Gnomon currently. My name is Adam Hartel. It's my pleasure to be your host this evening, and it's with great honor that I'm going to be introducing our guests. Tonight's event is called Using Katana for Look Development, the Creative Process. We've got some great people who are coming on the stream today. But before I introduce them, I would like to thank Lenovo for sponsoring tonight's event. Through Lenovo's contribution, it helps us to bring free educational content like this evening's event straight to you. So with that, I'd like to say our live stream will also be added to the stream catalog and will be available to watch on our Twitch and YouTube channels after the event concludes. And now I would like to introduce the first of our guests this evening, who is going to be setting up what we're going to be seeing this evening. Abel Vargas is a senior lighter compositor at Animal Logic. He is a Brazilian artist based in Vancouver, Canada. Over the past 10 years, he's worked at Zoic, Double Negative, Cinesight, Method, Sony Imageworks, and Animal Logic, just to name a few, on multiple projects from Once Upon a Time to Black Panther and Spider-Verse. So with that, I'd like to say, Abel, welcome to the stream. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks for the invitation, and thanks Foundry for also bringing me in this. Just before I say anything, I wish I had a student demo reel as good as you have seen just now. It just blows my mind how amazing students can do some work that I don't think I can do today. So as we focus on our own areas, we lose this generalist approach to production. So it's great to see students doing this amazing work.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
What you guys are going to watch now, it's a pre-recorded presentation, and the reason I pre-recorded it is just because I go from look development of multiple assets, going from Katana to Nuke, and it's a very long process. So in order to have this all bundled up nicely together, I made it into a pre-recorded presentation, and I'll be on the chat on YouTube. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I'll be replying to everyone there. And I hope you guys like it. This was a very interesting project, and yeah, I'll be here.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Abel. Let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me in this fine morning, at least here in Vancouver, for this lighting and look dev automation in Katana, preparing for success. And these are my personal tips on how to be able to produce more using Katana tools and some of the new Katana 3.6 updates. My name is Abel Vargas. I am a lighter and compositor. I live here in Vancouver and I've worked at a few VFX companies and in the animation companies in this industry. I've worked exclusively as a compositor at DNEG, Method, and Animal, and I've also worked as a compositor at Zoic, and in a different season, I also worked in there as a lighter. Imageworks, Cinesight, and Atomic are the animation companies. Atomic is the one I'm currently working at, and these are the three companies that I've worked for that use Katana. And this is my I'm talking on top of this experience working with in these pipelines. And you might ask me, okay, so these are big companies. How can I use this? What's in this for me as either a smaller company or as a freelancer? How can you get productive and be prepared for success while you're using Katana? And I want to tell you that. Better yet, I will show you. For this webinar, I actually built a little short project, if I may call it a short film, but it's very short. This is only 4 shots long. It's called Ground Zero because I had to name it something to make it cool. And in this short, I'm going to, I kind of designed it to be able to use all of these updates for Katana 3.6. That's snapping, docking panels, network material edit, and kind of show it how I would use this in my own pipeline. This is a pretty ambitious project for a single artist. I have 168 assets, over 40 materials. These are 4 shots, and I've done less than 40 hours of work. So if I was working full time in this from Monday to Friday, I'd be done. And I will also show a few tools that I love about Katana that are not an update for this version, but I feel like we should all be very familiar with them, which are variables, the monitor layer, and some collections. So there's 3 key points that I'd like you to take away from this webinar. And the first one is to always consider volume. And if you can expand on the work you've done, every good artist can use any software and any technique really just to create great work. But if you take great work and now you need to expand that into a whole sequence, a whole episode, a whole feature film, then you need to consider volume, and a volume and a way of working that will preserve this quality of work that you've dedicated in just one shot and turning that into multiple shots. So this volume means a different type of organization and a different type of considering what's coming up in your way. And of course, with more industry experience, you already know what you're to expect most of the times. So there are a few things that you can do ahead of time, and I'm going to go over that very soon. And the third thing is just consider the bottlenecks in your pipeline. I feel like before Katana came along and was like widespread in the industry as it is today, one of the biggest pipeline bottlenecks were lighting. Lighting and rendering has always been like this, where everything slows down, and also that slows down compositing. So how do we solve this bottleneck in your pipeline? So when you look at your own workflow and how these steps are laid out, you have to consider where your time is really being spent on. And I'm hoping that you can spend more time doing artistic things over being stuck in pipeline problems and doing repetitious work. And I feel like Katana really solved that for look dev, lighting, and connecting that into a render farm. So without further ado, here's the short, and then I will come back and then I will break down the most important steps that I took to be able to deliver this. Alrighty. There was some epic sound effects that I that I bought just to put on this short. I felt like sound is something very important to to add to this VFX sci-fi show, so I put that on. If you only like the opening credits, that it's the only thing I didn't do. So go to the internet, I guess, look for better templates. So first thing I want to give credits. These all the buildings, the roads, everything you see there, the structure part is they are Kitbash 3D assets. Kitbash is a big time saver, and one of the things that when I talked about like finding what's your bottleneck for me is assets. I'm not a modeler, and I want to build these worlds. So Kitbash 3D does this amazing service that they sell these products and these packages where they have a theme. So this one that I use the most is called Future Slums. And the sad part of Future Slums that it really looks like São Paulo, Brazil today. So it's not really future; it's present for me, I guess. Um, so the work that they do is really important, especially for us lighters who don't model. So take a look at their website. The ship, this amazing design, was done by my good friend Lee Kreiding. He is a senior modeler at Method Studios, and he has done amazing creatures for Godzilla, for Thor. So this guy is as good as you can get in this industry, and I'm very thankful for him to actually doing this ship for me, and he's always very helpful and a very good friend of mine. The HDRs that I use are from HDR Maps. This is a website that sells very good HDR, so you can go there and take a look at it. And Redshift is the render engine I chose for this project only because my home computer is designed for GPU rendering, and I really like Redshift. I've done a few freelance works with it, so I'm very comfortable with the tool, and they have a pretty nice integration with Katana. The best integration with Katana is easily 3D Light that comes with Katana, so I'll definitely use more 3D Light in the future. This one I kept using Redshift. And one very important credit I need to give is to Foundry's community. I depend on them. I depend on this community for most of the things that I do, especially all these scripts that I've developed for this project. They were people in the community are always very nice and friendly. And you can see, like, this is the most recent screenshot. I'm there right at the top, and I'm everywhere, always asking my questions there. And thank you, Jordan, for being there for me most of the times. And Gary, awesome person. He helped me on all of my scripts to get this done. So I do owe him a keg of beer. I promised, and one day I hope after this pandemic is done, I can come to London and pay him that keg of beer. I hope he can. I hope he likes beer, I guess. So let's think. Let's see how this is done. Um, the first thing is preparing the assets to go into Katana, right? And I did one thing that was very important for me in this project is to add an attribute to all the alembics with the shader name, to every object in each alembic with the shader name, so I can do automatic assignments in Katana. So you see me here opening the assets, the packages, and these are the how they come. So I actually center everything and export one by one. This one I did one by one just to show how it would look, this whole process of if I didn't have a script for this. So I spent a little bit of time doing this recording just to show that it can be done by hand, but I actually have a script that will export all of these assets in one go and add the attributes that with the shader name for each shape. And you can see this script if you're interested in my GitHub. And I'll put the link. I think it will show up very soon, and I will show it once again before this presentation is over. So this is I'm generating all these assets and adding these attributes, and the kit bash 3D assets, they already come with the attribute, but for Leo's ship and it's tons of objects that are in there, I created those attributes myself and then exported everything to Katana. So now that everything was ready to go to Katana, I could actually start working. This was all just prep work, right? Okay, so let's quickly talk about the things that are very important to think about productivity and volume, and I'll keep talking about like the things I find interesting and the cool new updates that Katana 3.6 has. For the updates, it will probably be more connected to lighting, but I just want to go over how you can work in volume in your look dev recipe. And the first thing to keep in mind is collections. Collections are one of the most powerful things you can do in Katana. And once you start working with them, it's really hard to go back to doing assignments by hand, even if it's not a lot of materials. The way collections work is that they are just little containers of scene graph locations. You can put paths, just groups, or you can go all the way down to the mesh. It's up to you the way you want to work. If you have a character that keeps using the same props, you can do a collection that is the character and the props. So you can easily just create a new render layer and assign that one collection that it will always contain the character and the props. For example, the way I'm working here is working with materials because I'm just working with the look dev now. And since I have this thing coming from let me change this asset real quick and get something with more variation. Tower, there you go. So looking from here, this is how the asset comes in, and it has a bunch of objects, and these objects they have different materials for them. The way we brought it from Maya is not this guy there. Every shape in this object, in this asset, has a arbitrary attribute called max material name that came with the kit bash 3D assets. They probably didn't use this for Katana. They were thinking of max at the time, probably. I don't know. But I created my own for the ship that Leo graciously lended me to use in this project. And I created a material name tag without the max and just added the name of the shader assigned to it from Maya. So now I have all of my my shapes with the shader name. And based on these names here, I'm creating my collections. And these collections are a very powerful but simple line of code, which is here when you look at what this line is saying is for anything recursively, anything, literally anything inside world geo. So we got here root world geo, anything inside underneath this group here, it will collect anything that has the attribute called max material name and which has the value of concrete mix. So once I select these guys, what this line of code returns are these objects. And the cool thing is that this is not relying on the name of the object. So this could be duplicated, change names, go into version 345 or sidewall B. You can have anything and a lot of freedom in naming, even though you have to have a naming convention to use in different stages. But at least for here, I'm just relying on this value here. And the way I test this very easily without having to render anything is I create all of these one per material. And you see, like, it only changes this last thing. So they're all looking for the same attribute and just matching to whatever the name of the attribute contains, of the shader in this case. So once I have created one per material, and this kind of goes back and forth, I will import new materials that have a different material that I haven't anticipated. So I can just create this collection and change this name here, and boom, now I have the trash bags inside a collection. And the way I test this is creating these viewer object settings. And the viewer object settings only affect the viewer. So it doesn't affect the render at all. But the cool thing about this is that if I can add a color just for the viewer, so this is a very simple thing. And in Hydra, you can actually create a Hydra material and assign the texture to these things. So we can actually see a very accurate depiction of what the material actually is in the render time. But for me, I'm just using a simple color, and it's a random color. Sometimes I try to find a color that I think in my mind makes sense. Emissive material, I mean yellow because of light, I don't know. So, but it doesn't matter, it could be random. And once I create these objects, the only thing I'm doing here is changing their colors. It's the only thing. I have nothing else set. And once you look at it, you can see that all of the materials are assigned. So I know what's emissive. I know at least what's concrete, and I got this blue for the glass. So you can see if your collections are working. And the way I make sure that everything is contemplated by my collections is I have this viewer settings for everything. So everything that is inside Geo first gets this pink color. So if I have something that isn't contemplated in my collections or a viewer object settings, then this thing turns pink. So if this object is okay, and you can see that there's no pink in it, then I move on to another asset, and the new asset comes in and say it doesn't have maybe this concrete white material. I've never seen it before. Then I'll open the material. It will have some of the color assignments because it's not based on name, it's based on the attribute. But now I can very easily see that I'm missing a material. So I'll just select that geo, look at this attribute, and say, oh, okay, I didn't create a concrete mix white collection. So I'll go back here, create a concrete white collection, make sure that when I select it and it's selected, it's here. Let's select something else so you can see, boom, and it selects the material. You can see there it's working. And then I can create a viewer object settings, choose a random color, and now I know this collection is taking everything. So I'll go through a few of the objects, but not all of them, because there are too many. It should go one by one. I could, but I didn't. I just take a sample, and I trust statistics to make the rest, especially when you're doing look dev for 200 billions, which is what I did in this case, 168 to be more precise. So this is how I work with these automatic assignments, right? Just by having this object settings, testing my collections, then I know that that I have a collection for everything. And these collections are a line of code that would just get the name of the shader that I have in this attribute. And it makes it very, very easy to go around the changes of names, of changes in locations. Maybe in modeling, they grouped things in version 2 that weren't grouped before, but it will still be assigned the correct material because it doesn't matter. It matters only that it has that attribute. After you have these collections set, and I know that they work because I have the viewer object settings, then I know I can work with my materials. And the way I work with, I control enter here, it's very obvious that what I use the most is actually child materials. And I have 1 material, 2, 3, and 4 materials in this. This is just a material that will be assigned to anything that doesn't have a material. So, and this is deletable. The way I do this is based on my textures and my shaders that I know of. I'll create a material that is the most versatile possible material, and this makes it into a very simple material. On these kit bash assets, I have only 3 textures per material. I have roughness, diffuse, and bump. So I created a very simple material that just anticipates what I need to change the most. So I know that I have to change this diffuse map very often. So I promote this diffuse map to be editable on the top level. And I do the same for roughness and bump here. And if I look at the image, then you see it appears as bump in the group maps. And I created these guys. And I also came here to the material and say, okay, so I want to do also work with the weight, and it will look, and I named it reflection weight because it's inside the reflection. They can have double similar naming. So you can have weight and weight having the same name. So I named it reflection weight. And as the group base properties, if I go to the top level now, press E, then I can see that inside base properties, which is the group I created, I have reflection weight and reflection roughness, and I also have maps for these. And now that I have this Uber material, if you can say that, for this one kit, and it will pretty much only work for this one kit, unless all of the kits always have just these changes to them. And then I can create child materials. And child materials are a very powerful concept, that a child material is a clone of this material, but you have the ability to change whatever you expose from the base material. This is what makes it very powerful to work in bulk, in volume, is that if I do any changes to this material that are not overridden by the child materials, these changes will trickle down to all of the child materials. So if you have a general note of all these materials are too shiny, for example, then you can go into the main material, turn down the reflection, and then all these changes will trickle down. Say, now with this color correction here, I know that I can take all of the diffuse maps and take them down. I can take their gamma down by half. And now I have every single child material will be affected by this new change because it's not even exposed and you can override it. But even if I do have this exposed to the top level and I have an override, then it won't change anything that is overridden already. So I can come here and you can see that things that I overrode with new textures and I kept the bump from the original. Here I have to change all of them, and in the base properties, I didn't have to touch much because most of it is far enough from camera that it doesn't make any difference at this point. But it's there to work all the materials individually, but they are all always checking back with the parent. So this child materials is something that it's very powerful to use when you're working in volume. And once I have created one material or one shader that I needed, especially based on my collections here, then I'm ready to do assignments. And with my material assignments here, this is a stack of all these material assignments that I have. So I have a base material, which will apply the base material, which is a pink material as well, just so I can see that something doesn't have an assignment. I have this being applied to all, and these are overriding it by the actual assignments that I need. So I have this concrete mix material, the white material, which is here, and it's being applied to anything that is inside the concrete mix white collection, which is driven by a line of code that will take anything that has this attribute with that name concrete mix. So this is how you make things work in volume. This concept is one of the things that allowed me to work and create this whole little short film in so little time. It's because I use the power of these automatic assignments to quickly go over all of my assets. And if I have a new version I need a new version for these KLFs, then I have this very simple script here that it's on my GitHub, and I will put the link here somewhere. And this script, it basically runs through recursively through every asset inside my model folder, and it will bake the KLF inside the KLF buildings. And I have an example folder here that I created just to show you. And if I run here, and I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the right things here. So I got the viewer. So if I run the script, it goes into that folder and bakes the KLF for each asset. So I don't have to even do this by hand, right? It went through, I don't know, 60 assets in one go. And now I have a new version for the KLF. So any changes are very easy to be updated when you have this thing going on. So using automatic assignments is part of being prepared for success. So you should also keep that in mind when you're working with collections and doing assignments for textures. And you can anticipate these massive changes and new versions and working with multiple assets just with a simple recipe. Here on the lighting side is where we can actually play a lot with these new updates that Katana 3.6 have. And I think one of the things that I use the most is the snapping. I designed this project to be able to stress test these tools, and I felt like doing the layout in Katana, even though it's not meant for it, would be a nice opportunity to stress test this tool. And now shot one has this blank canvas. Basically, I have the road here, which is just that curve from the first shot, and see like my camera is there, and all the buildings are on the origin of this map, which is in the middle of the crater that I very simply created for this tutorial. So for this webinar. So now with my tools, with these buildings in the center stage, then now I know I have to do I have to place them in my map. So the way I do this, and first thing I use the docking of the scene graph. For me, being able to full screen and have a panel that you choose, and it could be anything. I could be full screen and keeping my Python tab or the attributes on the other side. Then if I can full screen and work and still be able to pick the buildings here, that's such a great thing to do. So I can actually have the tools that I choose to have all full screen and in my screen instead of having just one at a time, which was the current way of working up until now. And I feel like I've used this a lot in conjunction with the monitor setting here. It's experimental, but I approve it. I only used monitor for this whole thing, and I have used it since the last version, I think, when it came out. But it keeps proving so useful, and I'll show you how it works. And now I have my Hydra here. So basically, the way I started doing this, I started just snapping it, and I just want to show how this would be done before without snapping, right? So I'll take this first building here. And I want to put it on the corner of this street. And let me open this guy. Okay, so I want to put this building there. The way this works is I would probably put it into a nice vantage point. I gotta move this here, maybe look from the top, drag it here. But now it's sunken in the world, so I have to put this here. And so it's a little bit of I mean, it's business as usual, I guess. Like this is how we've always done it before. We had the ability to snap. So I'm used to this. I'm glad I don't have to use it anymore. But so this is like a way of doing it, right? And when I look here from my camera, okay, my render cam, let me turn this off for a second. So, okay, so now I have this building here, and then I can just look at it. It's probably facing the wrong way. Okay, boom. Okay, let's do this like that for the time being. Okay, so I have this one building there. Now, what I can do instead is use snapping. And with snapping, I don't even need the perspective view here. I can just full screen here on my monitor. Take this, snapping, and I'm going to snap to the surface. And the surface is here, and boom. It's like magic. And I can tell you how much I like this. So I'm going to start a live render, so you can play with it a little bit. Live render, full screen this again. Turn on this monitor layer. And this is how I did all of these shots. I'm looking from the camera point of view, and I started just dragging my assets from zero to here. And as the render starts, I can see. Okay, there you go. So I have this, and I can just activate the live render for this asset and wait for the updates here. Oh, wrong one. Oh, there you go. So now I can kind of place this interactively, and then I can turn this off since I know it's on the ground plane. Okay, so this is filling this piece. Let's put a building here in front of the camera, and even without needing to see the render itself, I want to get that one building. I want to snap it. Now it's here, and I know now I can even adjust if I knew where it was rotated. But if I open here, okay, so I can now adjust it so we can see, and we can drag here a bit, maybe. Let's see a little of this front side. Boom, done. And now I know, just without rendering, because I can see my geometry overlaid on top of my render, I can already tell. I mean, I could activate this and see the result, or I could just close it and move on to the next building. I'm going to activate it, and now I can go back to just the bounding box. Now it's there. So every single building can be easily dragged with this in this mode. Yeah, I don't know if I'm using this. Boom, and drag it until it touches, and I can see the geometry, so I know. I mean, I can even intersect them if I want to. That's how accurate you can be using this. So back to bounding box, let's activate this. Boom, now it's in there, right? So all of these buildings were placed just like that, and it doesn't matter that this is in front. I can drag it here, and I keep dragging all the buildings. So this is basically how I did it. Of course, like some of the buildings I didn't like as much, or I had to change, but once they're kind of like around this this avenue, curve, highway thing, then I can come here to the viewer, and I can start moving these things around if I want to dock this full screen, use the monitor, and work in layout using snapping, and you don't have to keep getting out of here, going on, selecting the building, and just dragging it by hand and hoping that it's going to be on the right place. Cool, thanks. So these are 3 updates in one go. So the last update that Katana 3.6 had that I wanted to touch on is something that influences my work as a lighter every day. So whenever I have to do material edits, I can only use theoretically, I can only use whatever the look dev artist exposed for me to use in lighting. But sometimes you need to add a different thing that is not anticipated here. So instead of kicking it back and have that to be exposed, or use a couple of different tools to be able to edit this material inside lighting in in a user interface that is not very intuitive, Foundry created this network material edit node that will not only let you edit the exposed parameters, but it also lets you jump into the original material and add something new to this the material graph. So now for this one material here, for the shot number 2, it was getting too bright. So I just came in here, added a color corrector, and pushed the gamma down by a lot. So just to adjust that for that one shot. So this makes in material override so much easier and so much more intuitive than how it used to be. So props to Foundry for kind of pushing the artist friendliness of these tools. And from now, when I look at this material, it's very easy to see what I've changed. There's a green node here that is that it signifies it's a new thing. The yellow ones were overridden somehow, and the gray ones weren't touched at all. So it's very fast. You can very easily see what has been changed for this material, and still using the same user experience that the look dev artists have. So this is a very nice update, especially for us in lighting when we need to do these small changes, and this makes it more intuitive to work with than how it used to be. Like it used to be a more adventurous path you need to take to edit these materials. And now anyone can open this and edit a material in this intuitive way and color-coded way, which is really nice. So lastly, I want to talk about environment variables. And this is not new in Katana. This has been here for a while. And for me, when you're working in volume, or whichever volume you're working, if it's 10 shots or if it's 50 shots in a sequence, the environment variables are one of the most powerful things, and it was the thing that convinced me the most of always working with Katana as much as possible and as much as I can. And I have a few examples here, and I think that the most basic example is a variable switch. You can create a variable here in the project settings, variables, and if you know Katana, you know this very well. You can create a bunch of them that can drive not only the shot, it can drive render quality, it can drive a bunch of uh, little changes that you want to have in your script. But now I created just this variable shot, and if I turn this off and I change this now to shot 2, for example, then you see that my whole layout will change, and even my camera changes because it's all being driven by this variable switch. So if you look at the node graph here, when I change to shot 2, then it highlights where it's going. So now I know that shot 2, the environment variable says, the environment variable is basically saying, it's basically looking at the variable called shot. And if this variable, the value of this variable is shot 1, then you activate the branch shot 1, and so on for 2, 3, and 4. So this is a very, very straightforward way. You don't have to do any development for this to work. This comes built in Katana. Katana is made for this, and it makes it so much easier to add logic to your scripts. When you have this setup here with an environment variable, I can work with as many shots as I can wrap my head around in one script. If I am organized enough, I could work in 50 shots in just one recipe. So you can work with this variable, this global variable here, and you can even render based on the global variable. You can send this off to the farm saying, I want to render with the variable shot 2 active, shot 3 active. This has applications even in your render farm. So you can have one recipe being used to render multiple shots at once, because all you need to do is pass a different argument for the shot variable name. So you can render shot 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the same time with just one recipe. And this is very powerful. Another nice way of doing this is not only using global variables, but you can also use variables, local variables. So I have local variables that I've created here for these branches, which are the bike and the environment branch. And you can name the variable whatever you want as long as it's the same. So I have a render layer with a value of bike, and then I have the render layer with the value of environment. So this identifies this branch here as environment and this branch here as the bike. So if you're rendering from the branch, you can create a variable switch that is not connected to the global variable, but it's connected to this local variable that you created in your recipe. So it looks for the render layer variable. And if the render layer is variable is bike, then you activate the bike branch. And if it's the environment, then you activate the environment branch. And so now we're starting to add so much more logic to it, because now on shot 2, the environment variable will do this, or which in this case is nothing. But if I change for shot 3, for example, now we know that on shot 3, so we're nesting logic here. So first we have the shot, and now with shot 3, the environment layer will have this override that will only work for the environment layer, just because when it renders from here, it will take that path. And nesting inside this logic, I also use a variable enabled group, which is just like a variable switch, but it will enable based on just one parameter, and will disable if this parameter is not met. So because this is shot 4, it's grayed out, so it's not active. So anything you put here, you can just delete the whole scene, if prune the whole scene. But if the prune is here, it will not prune anything if it's not shot 4. So with the variable enabled groups, I can also do change based on the shot on the branch of the environment. So once you start adding this to your workflow and the use of variables, you can create optimizations like this This I have my lighting overrides here for per shot, but I also have optimizations. I have prunes that are removing assets from different camera points of view. I have the transform moving just one asset just for one of the shots, and so you can start to add shot level overrides in this one recipe, and if you gather enough of them, then basically you can have a whole sequence being driven by this variable logic, and that it makes it easier for any future updates that you only have one scene. You can render everything from one scene. You can, if there's a new material or a new shader or a new animation, you can easily open this, and this will be available to be rendered for all of the shots. So if I have a new lighting, if I have a new animation for the hover bike, which I did because in the first few shots I didn't animate the wings, but for the shot 4 I had to go in and animate the wings. So I just updated here, and now I have this new animation, even though it doesn't change anything for the first shots, but now I have this animation available for the 4 shots. So if I render this again, all of these shots will have a new animation. So I can have another layer of animation. Say I had a rough pass of animation, which is basically what I did, and this, as far as I got you, it's a rough pass of animation. But if this animation changed to being a lot more finessed through all of these shots in the path that the bike takes, then I can just update this alembic with this animation, and now I can batch render all of these in one go with this new animation for the sequence. So using variables is one of the most powerful things you can use in Katana, and it's really what allows you to work in volume. As a lighter, before working with Katana, I've had to go into work Saturday and Sunday just to update 30 shots, new cameras, new frame range, and put it on the farm one by one. And Katana allows you to do that with no development. This is built in Katana. You don't have to hack Katana to make it work. So Katana is a software that I really like because it allows me to do more lighting than the non-subjective repetitive tasks of the everyday. And by working with Katana, I'm able to be more productive, and I'm more prepared for success. If this short, done in less than a week of work, has pleased a client and they hire me to do a whole 30 seconds spot with a bunch of new scenes, then I'm ready to go. So this is being prepared for success, or at least I know if it's a whole new project, then I have the logic already. I understand how to work in volume, and I understand how to deliver more than one artist would naturally do without being able to use these tools. So be prepared for success. Be prepared to do more than you are required at the moment, and learn how to do these bigger projects by anticipating these bigger needs and bigger overrides. So thank you so much for coming with me in this ride of pipeline productivity considerations, and I hope you liked it. Let's go for some Q&A. I'm excited for this. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Abel. Go ahead and we can bring you back up, bring your video back up so you can join back up on the screen. So I'm going to introduce your colleagues who joined you as well.
Nice.
And the first I'd like to introduce is Kaylin Arnold. She is the Business Development Manager for Education at Foundry. Kaylin has been with Foundry Education team since 2015. In the role at Foundry, she has helped to build and maintain relationships with schools across the U.S., Canada, South America, Australia, and New Zealand. Prior to Foundry, Kaylin was working in sports broadcasting, AV, and live events. So Kaylin's going to bring you on the screen. Welcome to the event tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey guys.
Yeah, and I'm going to also introduce Elise. So Elise Testa is a field marketing specialist at Foundry. Elise has been with Foundry since 2017, and starting as a licensing, sales, and education support administrator, Elise is now field marketing specialist and helps to manage Foundry's virtual event series. So welcome to the stream, Elise.
Hi everyone.
Great to have you here. Yeah. So I think before we move into some questions, Elise, you had some things that you wanted to share with us as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Kyle and I just have a little bit of information about Foundry Education Program and as well about our virtual event series. Just share with everybody.
Great.
Share the screen here. Perfect. And I'll let Kaylin get started with the first couple slides.
Perfect. Well, we've already been introduced, so we can kind of skip past this part with our names. We just wanted to kind of highlight a bunch of the products in our portfolio. I think everyone's kind of familiar with Nuke and hopefully Katana after this presentation. But also just wanted to note kind of Mari, Flix, Moto, and Colorway, and all the ones with the stars are the ones that we have available in our education collective. And then just wanted to note, so information on our educational licenses can be found at foundry.com/education. There you can find out more about the education collective, our student licenses, including our first year free license, which hopefully a bunch of you are taking advantage of and using for classes this year. And also just wanted to note kind of remote learning, if there's any faculty on the call, feel free to drop us a line at educationsupport@foundry.com. We're pretty flexible with our remote licensing due to COVID, so feel free to reach out to us.
Perfect. So in addition to the education license, we do have some training material on our website to support your path learning Foundry products. And you can find that on our Learn Hub. On the Learn Hub, there are tutorials, developer documentations, and user guides for all of our products from Nuke, Katana, Mari, and Moto. On the right-hand side here, you can see some examples of the resources that are available. And we also encourage you to take a look at community resources as well. There are a lot of active members within the VFX community. Abel, of course, is one of them, but there's a few others that we recommend. We've worked with them before on some virtual events, and that includes Ben McEwen. He has a great newsletter and a course for Python for Nuke, as well as Josh Parks. He also has a Compositing Pro course. I haven't listed him here, but also Hugo's Desk with Hugo's Guerrera. He has a great resource as well, and he's very active on Twitch live streaming. And then also Access VFX. For those who aren't familiar with Access, Access focuses on bringing diversity, inclusion, awareness, and opportunity to the VFX industry. And they also have a great global mentorship program. So we highly encourage checking them out and getting involved if you can. So also Foundry hosts our own virtual event series. We kicked off the series in the beginning of April and have since hosted 35 events. All of these events are available on demand on our Livestream page. You can also check them out on YouTube. 30 days after they air live, they are posted on YouTube. So if you are subscribed to our channel, then you'll be reminded of all our new events. Also on our Livestream page, you can see what's coming up. Next week, we have a panel on the art of texturing. We have 4 leading artists, one from Framestore, another from Method Studios, Scanline VFX, and then an independent artist who now runs his own business called Creatures of Development, but has worked in the industry for nearly 20 years. They'll be discussing just the art of texturing, the fundamentals, and how textures can be used to tell a story. And there'll be a live Q&A with the panel, so it'd be great if you could join us that day and you can ask any questions you may have. The following week, we have a skill up. It'll be with Tony Lyons, and he'll be presenting his Nuke Survival Toolkit. And the toolkit is just equipped with different tools and resources that compositors can use when facing different production challenges. And then on the 5th of November, we're very excited to unveil our next release of Katana 4.0. Abel has been helping us through this beta process and has gotten a sneak peek into Katana 4.0, and we're all very excited to present it to you. We think it's going to be a game-changing release, so do join us on the 5th of November to see what's to come. And then finally, just want to remind you to stay up to date with us, whether it be through our Insights Hub on our website. On the Insights Hub, we host weekly articles, case studies, and just relevant industry related articles. So that's a great place to stay up to date. And we also have our quarterly newsletter. So if you like what you see there, you can subscribe and get some articles sent to your inbox. And then finally, just follow us on social media, either at Foundry Team or at the Foundry Team. We love to share user-generated content. So if you do share your work, tag it with Made with Nuke, Made with Mari, Made with Moto. We'd love to see it, and we'd love to potentially share it. And so finally, just want to say thank you to Gnomon for letting us join today, and of course, thank you for Abel for continuing to support Foundry. And I think with that, we can go to Q&A.
Yeah. So everybody watching, my colleague Miranda, who's actually been doing the production for tonight's stream on the back end, she is in the chat, and she's going to be feeding us questions that I'll bring up to our guests tonight. So feel free to type whatever questions you've got in the chat, whether that be questions for Abel or questions for all of our guests regarding the products that they're highlighting this evening. So I think, let's see here. Oh, I've got a few notes coming in here. Hang on just a moment. All right. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Just drop in and we're multi-streaming, and we've got we're monitoring all the chats on all of our streams. So whether you're in Facebook or you're with us in Twitch or in YouTube, feel free to just type directly into that chat interface. We'll be able to get your questions and bring them through to our guests. I did see one question pop up. And I don't even know it's something whether you're able to talk about this or not. But one of our viewers was just curious if there was going to be any possibility for like indie type licensing and release for Katana in the future.
Don't know if there's anything currently in the works. We just released Nuke Indie, so obviously we're kind of focusing on that right now on the indie world. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything publicly that we can say. I'm not even sure if Jordan.
Yeah, and no worries.
Even thinking about it right now.
Totally get it. Totally get it. And then, some other questions, great thing about the Gnomon stream is we've got a lot of cross disciplines coming in. So any one of you who'd like to speak to this, if you could break down just a bit in terms of, for those that may be less familiar with Look Dev, and I guess what I'm trying to say is at a little bit more foundational level, how would you convey what it is that part of the pipeline is, and how Katana sort of leverages, all of its resources to that part of the process. So going from a little bit high level to a little bit more mid level for folks that are sort of like, okay, this was really interesting what I just saw, but this is new to me.
Yeah, sure. I feel like, Look Dev is the advantage of using Katana for Look Dev is, well, the tools are very easy to use, but it's also the ability of scaling. It's a ability of doing version 2, 3, 4, 5, 55, and not breaking the pipeline. I feel like everything in Katana is always connected. And one of the things that I think it's very different from the student world or the independent world to a studio scenario is that we work with thousands of shots, right? So we need tools that allow us to work in volume, keeping the quality. And I think that's what Katana kind of takes from look development from Maya, from all the other softwares, and make it in a way that it's easy to use, it's easy to learn, but it also scales up very well. And whenever I'm doing my own things, and for this stream, I could have worked on one shot. But for me, and this is my personal preference, I'm always worried about volume because I work with these big films, and my idea is always what if I wanted to make 10 shots? What if the client loves this and they want 5 spots instead of 1? Can I render this? Can I swap the animation and everything is in place, right? So I think Katana makes these parts easier. So the same work that you're doing in look development in Maya will work perfectly in Katana. The difference is that it plugs better to the pipeline. It has stronger pathways to the assets. So once you start working with Katana, if you go to any studio, you will understand how powerful it is. And what I was trying to convey here is just how to bring this power into a smaller world, and then how you can take advantage of maybe if you can only produce one show, or one TV spot, for example. Suddenly, if you build everything in Katana, it's very, very easy to go from 1 to 10. While if you're working look developing 100 assets in Maya, that makes it very slow. In this, I looked at 168 assets in a day.
Wow.
So,
okay.
So this is speed, right? This is so I feel
It's
like
a katana, yeah.
yeah. So this is what
Absolutely.
it's focused on, like keeping the quality, but making it so that you can scale up.
And working smarter rather than harder.
Definitely.
Yeah,
And I speak about
absolutely.
these automatic assignments, right? So if you have assets that share the same material, then why are we dragging or right-click assign to every object if they're all the same concrete? There's no reason for this. And if you could write a script to do that in Maya, but Katana is built on that. Like Katana is built to handle volume, and it's beautiful. I love it.
That's great. Thank you for that, Abel. We've got another question that's come in. They're saying, I've been learning Nuke at Gnomon. That's great. But very interested in Nuke Indie. But will I be able to use the Keen Tool plugin with Nuke Indie? So kind of a features question.
Think right now, no, but we've just done the most recent, like the first, I guess, release off of Nuke Indie coming out. So obviously our developers and the Nuke team are always interested in feedback. So if there are certain plugins, anything like that, that you're just desperately wanting included, we want to hear that, and our Nuke team want to hear that. So just send us a line at, I guess, info at, or trying to think of the best email for just kind of feedback for the dev team.
If you'd like to direct it to virtual.events@foundry.com, that'll come to me and I can forward it on. Also, I will forward on our Nuke Indie page because, as Kaylin was saying, there was an updated release of Nuke Indie, which has allowed for some plugins. I'm not sure exactly if Keen is on that list, but we'll look into that and share some information with you.
Awesome. Great. And then we've got another viewer just asking if Katana is compatible with Cinema 4D.
Yes, well, Katana is compatible with any software because in the end of the day, you will model your asset, you paint your textures in any software, and then you export that one as a Alembic. So if you can export an object as an Alembic from any software, then you can bring it in Katana. So you can use your textures from Substance and Mari. You can bring your VDBs from Houdini. So Katana will take all of these from everywhere in the pipeline, including layout. So you get everything in Katana. Then you can look development, you can do the look development, you can light, and you can render from Katana, from your favorite renderer. Katana has plugins for Arnold, for Cinema 4D, Arnold, for Redshift, RenderMan, everyone. So you keep on your safe space and your comfortable zone, but now you can just do more.
Awesome. We've got someone from one of our Twitch viewers asking, so can you use the look dev in Maya, and when you're happy with it, export it to Katana to render it with, for example, Houdini stuff? Also, how do Arnold stand-ins work with Katana? And the technicalities of that question are a little bit beyond me, but maybe you could.
It's okay. Katana has its own system for stand-ins that is compatible with all the softwares. So you can create stand-ins in Katana, and that will work for everything else. Right now in the industry, there's no way to export a material easily from any software to any software. I think that if you're working with Katana, you should buy into the workflow that is look deving in Katana. If you're you could of course use Material X if you're using Arnold, but even if you make your materials in Houdini, you can't bring that into Maya, right? So I think the industry now is in the moment of really considering these approaches. UST, if anyone is familiar, it's a universal scene description that it's being used everywhere. Katana is compatible with it, so you can bring layout, you can bring everything from any software, right? But shading is an area that there's not a lot of conversation between softwares. Even if you're using Arnold in Houdini and Arnold in Maya, it's really hard to make that connection. But I feel like once you start using look development and see the power that it is in Katana, it's really hard to go back to Maya or Houdini, as a matter of fact.
Okay. We've got another one of our viewers on YouTube. It's got a question for Abel. They're talking about the transition from being a compositor to a lighter. They're wanting to know, was that smoother?
Oh, good question,
yeah.
because I did it. So, the good thing about, I work, because I work in animation, I do both. Every lighter in animation also does compositing. We composite our own shots. The best thing about going from Nuke to Katana is that they're both nodal-based softwares. So you are definitely in your comfort zone about working with nodes, because I worked with Nuke. It was very easy to understand the flow of data that Katana has, and the same logic of the logic of using nodes works in any software that has nodes. So it's an easier transition. I'd say it'd be scarier being a compositor going to Maya to be a lighter. It's a very different world, but if you're going as a compositor to Katana, then it's much closer as technique. So I think, yeah, it's it was difficult back in the day, but I feel like if you're going as a compositor, if you're applying for a job as like I don't know, a junior lighter in an animation company that uses Katana, you'll probably be up and running in a week.
Wow. Okay. Cool. And one of our viewers was actually just wanting to know what Elisa's email was. Just one more time. Sounds like you're the one that
Sure. It's virtual.events@foundry.com.
Virtual.events@foundry.com.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. So while Miranda gathers some more questions from various chat streams, wanted to talk to you guys. I mean, I know that we can't delve into version 4, but maybe just in general, what are some of the things that you guys feel is important for you looking forward to the future? So no promises on like this is exactly what 4 is going to be like, revealing anything that shouldn't be revealed, but kind of what's on your radar as you guys are looking to the marketplace for this and to the industry and the way that people need to be using these products and kind of where the industry is going.
I can just say something quickly, and then I'll let Abel continue,
Sure.
just because he's been using it. But I know that our approach is just creating a more artist-focused style and workflow, letting artists light the way that they think. And as Abel has mentioned, Katana can show you everything that you want to know about a certain scene, and it can be very nuanced and allow for you to scale and move up. But sometimes you don't want to see everything and you just want to focus on the final image. So it's just allowing artists to see what they want and to be able to focus on that and kind of take away some of those technical barriers at times so they can focus on creativity is the path forward for Katana.
Definitely. I feel like, Katana 4, and I think the roadmap from Katana, since the first time I used Katana in 2012, they have been developing so much on the artist side, and it's really nice because sometimes you use a software that it feels like the engineering side, they don't talk to the user. So, and what Katana does, and you guys see on version 4, is that it just taking away the non-subjective work, what we don't need to focus as artists, and allows us to focus on lighting. And I think that's why Katana is growing so much. Katana, it's in all the big studios probably in the world. I don't know if we're missing any of one. So just as DNAG is holding on to Clarice to their dear life, they should change. It's a tip, DNAG. And yeah, I made a joke and I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah, so it's about Lighting Fest. I feel like the most expensive thing a studio has is the artist. And why are we paying artists to do repetitious work? And Katana is taking that away. And you see, like, we're going, and there are many previews for Katana 4 now, and they have their new lighting modes are amazing. And I'm already used to it. You know, like it's easy to get used to good stuff, and then it's really bad to go. I've been using the beta, and I can't even go back to my previous version of Katana. Like I was like, I'm already spoiled. I don't want to work with anything else. So and it's nice that we have the focus on the artist, and we can be productive, we can be creative, still sitting on this super powerful machine, which is Katana.
Awesome. Now, Abel, could you unpack a little bit more? I want to talk about lighting a bit.
Yeah, sure.
And definitely relate of what you're doing in lighting to Katana as you can and would like to. But speaking as an artist working in lighting, talk to us a little bit about your discipline. Talk to us a little bit about your process, what is important to you in the way that you work, and maybe even share with us a little bit about how you've learned to work smarter with Katana in what you do.
Yeah, I feel like for me, even when I was a student, before getting to the industry itself, every time I was doing something 5 times in a row, I was like, okay, Python might be able to fix that. So I started learning programming because I didn't want to do repetitious work. And I think this is what keeps pushing me to Katana, because I have to do less and less of that. So I love pipelines. And as a lighter, our work is really to get in animation specifically is to hit the color key, right? So we'll have the paint over or the paint from the art department, and we really need to have that. And it doesn't really matter how you get to it, but you need to hit the color key, and that's the first step. The second worry that I have, and while I'm doing even this first lighting, is will this scale? So, and this is so my mind is always working towards, can I do this for all the sequence? Will this work, right? So color key, and I feel like the philosophical part of lighting, which is appreciating art, studying. I've studied history of art when I lived in Rome many years ago. So I was always into art, painting, and photography. I was graduated as a cinematography from film school. So I've got that part. I mean, it was stronger than my technical side, and then hitting creatively what the art director wants, and making sure that that will be consistent for all of the shots. That's paramount. So whenever you're working in the industry as in the bigger projects, we have a look to hit, and that's the most important thing for me. So I'll hit the look, I'll make it as good as possible. I'll try to make it better than the color key, but I have to make it in such a way that that is reproducible. The team can understand if they open my scene, and that will in turn become a movie eventually. So I'm always worried about the process, about volume. So when I guess I'm a more technical artist, so this is why I'm always worried about pipeline. And I guess this is what got me closer to Foundry, and now being in the beta for Katana 4. It's just because I know that this infrastructure is what keeps movies happening. And I want to be able to work in a big team, having my lighting set up be easy to use for everyone else. And the more you go up the career, the more ability you have to contribute more creatively to the film. When you're a junior lighter, you were just absorbing all this information of years of development that the movie industry has, and then you get to a point that you can contribute to lighting. And I think like I'm at the point that I finally can do something on the creative side and kind of contribute to the art itself. But for most of the part, I was like, okay, I'm learning. I need to learn all this first. And it's a very different world from when you're a student, because when you're doing your student product, you're the director. And you have to kind of let go a little bit of this of the director ego, and learn from this amazing community. I've only worked with amazing people in the industry. It's the best. Like everyone loves what we're doing, and we love to communicate Everyone is very helpful. So if anyone's starting in the industry, just feel welcome right now, because it's great, and we're excited to have more people join us.
I couldn't agree more. I don't work in the part of pipeline that you work in. I'm coming actually more from pre-production. But even as a concept artist, I can't express enough how helpful it is for me to talk to the 3D modelers, people working in hard surface environments, so forth. The more I understand about the rest of the pipeline, as you said, helps me do my job better. Helps
Yeah,
me,
you can anticipate, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think sometimes people, the word technical can be a bit of a catalyst sometimes. Sometimes people go, yes, that's what I'm into, and other people go, I don't know about technical, that's scary. But really, I love the way that you expressed, technical or technique is so important, because understanding your context is really what you need to do.
And the more you control the technique, the more you can express the art.
Yes.
You have to be able to use the tool if you want to do the art. So it's part of it. So this is why we stay so long in the industry, just learning the tools. Because if you can't be a great sculptor if you don't have the tools. You can imagine a beautiful sculpture, but in the end of the day, it takes years to get there and get the nuance and get the finer details that sometimes when we're starting we can't see. And most of the things that we can't see is just like, it's the big picture. Okay, so this is 1 hour and a half of stuff. I've worked on a minute in my student demo reel. So like it's a lot of different departments, different people, and learning how to navigate in this environment while expressing your art is an art on itself.
Yes, and I appreciate the fact that you talked about as a junior artist in whatever discipline you're coming into, it's not about knowing everything and being able to have 100% creative control. It's about playing that role and learning what you can from it.
Yes,
which is so valuable. So, and you even talked about people that are just breaking into this. So for learners, for students out there, for people that are looking into this and they are getting started, like you said, what do you feel would be important for a person, rather than trying to be the director? What would be important for an artist to start focusing on as priorities if they wanted to enter as a junior artist and maybe even stand out as a junior artist?
Yeah, I feel like, and this is like with every senior that I ever talked about or lead, I was like, what's the ideal junior? And most of the times it's not the best demo reel. It's the person who wants to learn the most. So for a junior artist, and you got to understand that, like I'm on a project now, and it's a 9-month-long project. So we're all working together, and we have to get along. So we need people to understand that when we say a shot is not good, and I have that as well. It happens to me every day, but we're always working towards getting a shot better. So the shot, a bad shot doesn't mean you're a bad artist. It just means that we have to work more on it. And the more feedback we get, and I guess like in the beginning, sometimes like you're tired of the shot because there's too much feedback. But as time passes by, you understand that every feedback makes the shot better. It's like for the best production and the best people, they will give feedbacks, then you will be so proud of this shot in your demo reel. So take the feedback and be a learner. If people, don't be afraid to ask, but take your time to learn and dedicate to making life easier for production and not making it harder. So I feel like if you're a good-spirited person that wants to learn and puts the time in, you'll be the best junior. And sometimes that's not the best demo reel, but it's definitely the best person to be around, the best person to teach. Because when you teach something and the person like understands, takes notes, and comes back with more questions, it's infinite. You can always come back with questions. But if we feel this is moving forward, we're not doing the work for you, that's great. Right? So as I said just in the beginning, like my demo reel wasn't as good as most of these demo reels that I saw on the clip for Gnomon, and here I am. So if you don't have an amazing stellar demo reel, you have a shot, because I'm here.
Well, and I appreciate, what you're saying right now, and actually how it applies to what you've unpacked for us tonight about Katana. And that is, if you are a junior artist, the less time you can spend doing just repetitive, arbitrary things, the more time you actually have to move further into the project to learn more. And if you're going to fail, it can even help you fail faster. So you didn't invest a gazillion hours into a shot where they go, well, that's nice, but we've changed it, or that's nice, but we don't like it.
Yeah, it took you a whole week, but at least if you took a half a day, you're like, it's okay, I'll do it after lunch.
Yes, yeah. No, one of the best pieces of advice ever given to me was just, if you're gonna fail faster. Like,
That's so true.
Don't spend a year failing on one thing. Just fail quickly, and then iterate again. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a Katana-related question that's come in. Let's see here, and they're kind of wanting to make sure that they're understanding what you're conveying here. So it's sort of a kind of a confirming question.
Sure.
They're just saying, so just to summarize, Katana is used for lighting multiple exports from multiple softwares like Houdini, Maya, Blender, etc., together in one scene. Is that an accurate understanding of what you're?
Yes. So
cool.
You will produce your assets in any software. And then you export all that in Alembic. If it's a geometry, you'll take your textures from whichever software you painted, even Photoshop. And Katana is where you put everything together. So if you look at a Katana script, we call it a recipe, just because it's a recipe, because it's made to be repetitive. No, it's another word. Close to repetitive. Repetible? I don't know. Something like that. So
we'll
it's
roll with it. Yeah.
So you follow, Katana follows a recipe. And if you change the shot on top, the assets, it will still follow the same recipe. Just like Nuke. If you change the read node, it will change everything below it based on that. But Katana takes that into the whole pipeline, because Nuke is only taking images. Katana is taking VDBs, it's taking Alembics, it's taking textures. And so if you look at a recipe in Katana, it describes the pipeline. There's the model and animation, there's the textures, and then there's the shading, and then there's lighting. So you can recreate the pipeline inside Katana, and all these things, it will plug from the different departments. So shading will be doing that thing. And then when they publish, whoop, it's in Katana. And texturing can do an update, and boom, it's in Katana. And so Katana takes the whole pipeline and brings it. So it doesn't matter where you produce the things, as long as, they're in an Alembic or format that Katana supports. And then you can do your lighting and look development there and render. Send it off to comp.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And then we've got another question for Abel, just asking for some best tips on how to make your 3D render more cinematic. Where you're setting it up.
Yeah, I feel like copying is very good, because if you start doing your exercises and you set a target, and this is the #1 thing in the industry, it's reference. Get a reference. And it's and I guess and I remember when I was a student, I was like, I don't need a reference. I know what I want. But I totally didn't, because it's we think Star Wars was like that. But once you take a photo, a print screen, and you put it next to your render, this is when you start to be able to make something cinematic. You will look at the black levels, the white levels, the details, how the textures are made. And then if you have this one by one, and you start matching your study of what is a cinematic thing that you love, and you start doing that yourself, then you start practicing your mind into doing something that looks cinematic. Mm-hmm. And then it will come more naturally. And maybe in the future, after a lot of those studies, then you can start producing your cinematic shots, and then people will be inspired by you as time comes.
Absolutely. You got to get those studies in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally relate to your example, man. Like, huge fan of Star Wars, and I sat down one day to draw Boba Fett, and I was like, I know what Boba Fett looks like. And I was drawing, and I started experiencing some problems, or something wasn't quite looking right. Pull out your reference, and it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, no. My brain filled in a lot of gaps there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, if you're doing look development specifically, it's so great to see the material actually in the environment, how it reflects, what's the history behind that material. So the texture artists do a great job painting these textures. So we have to honor that
Mm.
job and doing materials that are based in reality, that they express what the director wants to see. So it's all about finding and matching reference until you can do it so well that you can start to improvise on top of that. And then you become one of these great artists that we see working in the industry everywhere on Instagram. I follow some amazing guys on, they're concept artists, and I love concept art. And you see, like, everyone starts doing that same little composition in black and white. And then a few years later, you become a reference, at least to someone. So
yeah, and then, you know, going to unlikely sources too, because sometimes you have those trends where it's like everybody's doing the same composition.
yeah,
You know, so go to something that is totally outside of your wheelhouse and look at that. Try to reproduce
yeah.
that.
Look at more stuff, right? Someday you're doing sci-fi. You can the next day you can be doing fantasy. You can be doing something real, something cyberpunk. Now the game is coming out, so everybody's crazy about cyberpunk. So so I guess like this variation that allows you to become a great artist. I think one of most of my favorite painters, when you think about Van Gogh and a few others of the great painters, they were also inspired by Japanese painting.
That's right.
So sometimes like these things are all connected and it becomes your style eventually. So take some reference, take some inspiration, and don't be afraid to copy.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I even just saw somebody pop up in the chat saying, thanking you guys for everything. Like, I'm going to go look into Katana right away. So I think it's been a very
welcome to the team.
Inspired time. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You get Katana for free, so definitely check it out if you're a student.
Oh, sorry. Can you say that one more time? I think there was a bit of an audio, something happened with the audio at the beginning of that.
I was just saying, if you're a student, definitely check it out because you get Katana for free with your student license. So there's no price barrier or anything.
Foundry has a nice program for students. So you can take the student. It's easier to go into a professional license. So it's a nice pathway to get into the industry. So you get your free student license, you study with it for a year, and then you have discounts and easier access to the full-fledged software. So I think it's one of the best ways to get into all these softwares. You got to try them out, love it or not. Hopefully, yes. If you don't love Katana, write me. It's something wrong. It's something wrong.
You heard it. You gotta go to write Abel. You know,
write me.
You're messing around with Katana and there's something you're not quite getting, or you want a new feature or something like that. You know, just send it his way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a living proof that Foundry really listens to artists, because it all came with my relationship with Foundry started just a few years ago, 2 years ago, I think, because I was just writing them asking for stuff. I was like, hey, how about this? How about this? Hey, I wanted to record some tutorials for people on the internet. Can I do it with Katana? And they were like super supportive. And lo and behold, here I am, couple of years later. So they really listen to people and they're really friendly. It's a very nice company to be partners with.
Excellent. I couldn't imagine a better note to wrap on, guys.
Nice.
Almost at 9 o'clock. And yeah, definitely. Thank you for unpacking Katana the way that you have. I love it when, like you said, you've got to convey it kind of by artists for artists.
Yes.
Yeah, and I started the stream knowing very little about Katana, and now I'm interested, and I don't even work at Look Up. So
go download it now.
Yeah, absolutely. So want to thank all of you again for joining us tonight. Thank you for giving of your time and for joining the stream. Also want to thank my colleague Miranda, who has been handling the production for tonight's event. And I want to thank all of you who've taken the time to tune in. Please come back. We will actually be streaming again tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, and I'll be interviewing Jared Morantz about creature design and concept art, as well as providing a little bit of information about Gnomon. So if you don't know who Jared Morantz is, he is an amazing concept artist and responsible for some of the very, very iconic creatures that we're seeing in film and television today, as well as some work in video games too. So come back for that. Thanks, guys, again. And with that, everyone, just stay safe, stay creative, and we'll see you back here on the stream again in the very near